Alright, let's see how we did. Celine wants to purchase tickets from a vendor to watch a tennis match. The vendor charges a one-time service fee for processing the purchase of the tickets. Given a linear equation represents the total amount in dollars Celine will pay. I better unpause this. Will pay for the end tickets. What does 12 represent in the equation? Well, is it the purchase price of one ticket? What is it? The service fee in dollars? Yep, it's a one-time service fee. One-time service fee. So, amount of service fee in dollars. Gardener buys two kinds of fertilizer. Fertilizer A contains 60% filler materials by weight, and fertilizer B contains 40% filler material by weight. Together, the fertilizer bought by the gardener contains a total of 240 pounds of filler material. So, it's got to be 0.6 times the first one. Anytime there's a percentage involved, you're going to change it to a decimal format. So, 0.6 plus 0.4y equals 240 pounds of filler material. Pretty straightforward. You've probably seen that in a lot of Algebra 2 questions. Question 3. What is the sum of the complex number 2 plus 3i and 4 plus 8i? Okay, we're adding them together. The reals get added to the reals, and the imaginaries get added to the imaginaries, and that's as hard as it gets. It's not anything too earth-shattering. You treat I like it's a variable. When would you not treat I like it's a variable? If you're dealing with I squared, what would I squared be equal to? If I is equal to the square root of -1, what is I squared? -1. So if you were doing multiplication and not addition, then yes, you would run into I squared, and of course you would want to substitute that with -1. Question 4. In the equation above, P and T are constants. Which of the following could be the value of P? Well, we know that if you take the first times the first, you get the firsts. You get the squared term. So P has to be the same thing, so that's P squared equals 4. There's only one choice that'll do that. 2 times 2, right? Well, if you multiply the first two terms together, wouldn't you get P squared x squared? That has to be the same as the quadratic term on the other side. Because they guaranteed me that they would be the same. That's a good question, but right here they guaranteed me they would be equal to each other. So I know the squared term on the left side has to be equal to the squared term on the right side. So what do you mean when you say total? What do you mean? Okay, that is true, but P does not have anything to do with that -9. So, okay, let me back up. Maybe walk down memory lane with you. When we FOIL things together, now me, I'm a big boxer. Some of you are not. Do you like to draw arrows? Is that what do you connect things with arrows? Do you draw a box? What do you like to do for FOIL? You like to draw arrows. Okay, so if we do it your way, then I would have P squared x squared. I would have minus PTX. Then I would have positive PTX. Those are going to cancel. And then lastly, I'm going to have minus T squared. And as we said before, these two would cancel. We knew that was going to happen because these are called conjugates. So, the 4x squared on this side has got to be the same as the p squared x squared on this side of the equal sign. And the minus 9 has to be the same thing as the minus t squared. How do I know that? Because one of them has the x squared in it, and the other one doesn't. So the coefficient of this and the coefficient of this have to be identical. Now, if they had asked me about t, then of course I would have taken the square root and I would have told you 3. But because they specifically asked me about p, I needed to focus my attention on the quadratic coefficient and compare it. Does that make sense? I kind of shortcutted that because I knew that they were making me focus on the first time the first. I didn't really need to focus on the rest of it. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions. That's how we learn. True story. Every time I walked into a college math class, now I got straight A's in high school math. I got A's in college math, in my graduate or in my undergraduate math. I started getting B's in graduate level math, and I worked my butt off for those B's. Every time I walked into another math class, it didn't matter whether I was graduate or undergraduate, I thought I was the dumbest kid in the room. And every time I walked out, I realized I wasn't. But guess what? I wouldn't stop asking questions until I got the answers I needed. I wasn't going to let go. And that's how I ended up with the better grades, is because I wouldn't give up. Don't give up. Even if something doesn't make sense, keep asking questions until it does make sense. Which of the following is the graph of the equation of y equals 2x minus 5 in the xy plane? Well, it's got to have a y-intercept of -5. That definitely is not it. B is possible for the y-intercept. What's wrong with letter B? It's got a negative slope, and we need a +2 for our slope, so we can cross that one off. So we need a -5. That one doesn't have it. Well, I just got rid of all the other choices, so that must be the one. Okay, x equals 2/3 y. And y is 18. What's the value of 2x minus 3? Okay. So that means x is 2/3 of 18. How many times does 3 go into 18? 6. So 2 times 6 is how much? 12. So now we know x is 12, and we can plug that in there. 2 times 12 minus 3. 24 minus 3. Call it 21. Any questions about that? 7. Bricklayer uses the formula N equals 7LH to estimate the number of bricks. N needed to build a wall that is L feet long and H feet high. Which of the following correctly expresses L? What does that phrase mean right there, expresses L? What are they asking me to do? Get L by itself. Solve for L. Well, guess what? That was kind of given to me by all the answer choices. Solve for L. All right. So n equals 7LH. Looks like we just need to do division by what? Not by L. We want to leave L alone. Let's divide by 7 and H. Those would cancel, leave a, and so which one do we have here? N over 7H. Answer choice C. Table above shows some values of the function w and t. For which value of x is w of x plus t of x actually equal to the original x value you started with? Which one? 2? Yeah, all I'm doing is I'm adding these two things together, and I'm seeing if I get the original x value. And if I don't get the original x value, that's not the answer choice you are looking for. So if you add those two things together and you end up with the original x you started with, ding, 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 that's the one. I know sometimes they word things in an unusual way, maybe you haven't seen before, but it really is that easy, and it's not intended to be hard. At least not too hard. Well, that's a lot of radicals. But another way to write that would be the square root of x plus 3 equals 8. Could simplify those, then move that to the other side. Square root of x equals 5. What should we do to both sides? Square it. Any questions on that? It wasn't too bad. Yep.
So I got it wrong because I did x, so I had that equation, but I just squared every number.
Okay.
X plus 9 equals 16.
All right, now I'm going to back up and look at what you're suggesting. So let's rewrite the original. In a lot of these radical equations, we say things like, get the radical by itself and square both sides. So immediately, lots of kids are going to see this over here, and instead of just interpreting it, the square root of 64, as something they already know how to do, they are immediately going to do something like this. Okay, now let's just look at what if we really do this, what are we really doing? We are taking the square root of x plus the square root of 9. Now, times itself. Yeah, we're foiling this thing. Now, I'm assuming that we are not going to, in our minds, we're just not going to think that we should change the square root of 9 into 3, because that would make my life easier. But let's just ignore that for now. I don't know. So if I multiply those together, I get plain old x. If I multiply these together, I get the square root of 9x. Now, I'm hoping that you see that that's 3 radical x. And if I multiply these together, I would get the square root of 9x, which I'm hoping you'd see that as 3 radical x. And then square root of 9 times square root of 9 is just plain old 9. Okay? The moral of the story is you were left with another radical in your expanded form. What are you going to have to do again eventually? You're going to have to square both sides eventually, but you'd have to get the radical x by itself again. So this is going to get ugly in a hurry. So, when you start, that's not a bad, we're all going to try different things. If you feel like the problem is going down a dark hole for which there is no return, that's probably because it's the wrong way to go. Now, I don't want to see anybody, spin their wheels doing this much work for this kind of question. I want them to go, wait. This should be easier than this. I want them to say, okay, scrap that, go back and look at the original question. Is there anything in there I can simplify, make my life easier? So, it's a good question that you ask. It happens to every single one of us. Just, if you start to feel like that problem is going too crazy, it's probably because you're going in the wrong direction. And I am not kidding about that. Even because I love doing algebra, because I'm a math teacher, I will find some of these problems and I'll be like, okay, we could do this and we could do this and we could do this. And I'm like, wait a sec, a kid's never going to think of this. And then click, something goes off in my head and I'm like, wait a sec, if we just did this, the problem would be a whole lot easier. So keep that in mind. You should probably go home and do more homework. Like right now, probably, right? If you want to shoot me an email, make sure you shoot me an email. Let me know so I can add you to my list of people on my video that get all my videos and can watch them all. And I'll also add you to my email list for the online link if you happen to be at home.